Now, Carol Martin, Ernie Anastos, Dr. Frank Field with weather. The first team. This is Channel 2 News at 5.
Good afternoon again, everyone. I'm Carol Martin.
And I'm Martin Ernie Anastos. Here's what's happening on this Wednesday. It takes a lot to get Donald Trump down on his knee, something like the weight of an 8-carat diamond ring and a marriage proposal. The publicity-loving developer made sure today that he'll see his name in headlines as he announced his engagement to Marla Maples. That's right, the same woman that he so publicly rejected just a week ago. Today's change of heart came on live television. Channel 2's Lisa Castleman is also live for us right now. She has the story at Trump Tower in Manhattan. Hi, Lisa.
Hi, Ernie. Well, that seems to be the talk outside here, outside the Trump Tower on 5th Avenue. Less than a year after Donald's divorce from Ivana, looks like he's ready to tie the knot again.
He's a man who rarely shies away from big publicity and never backs down from a good fight. And apparently Donald Trump has had his share of both these days. Just a week ago, the world watched as Marla Maples, Donald's first other woman, found out about his other woman, Italian brunette Carla Bruni. It looked like Marla was out, Carla was in, but not now. They went public this morning, telling their story first to talk show host Kathy Lee Gifford. It turns out that Marla had been at Gifford's home for about a week, despondent over her much-publicized separation from Trump. It was yesterday that he changed his mind and changed his plans.
The one thing I did know along the way is that they really love each other. You know, it may not be the kind of a love that I would be satisfied with or that you would be, but love comes in a lot of different forms. And I'm not going to try to decide what's right or wrong for another person's life. I simply tried to be a port in the storm for her.
Donald has said publicly more than a few times that he can't understand everyone's fascination with his personal life. But today he talked about it, telling Channel 2's Jill Rappaport, "I thought I wanted to be single for a while, but it's such a hassle. So when you're with someone who's so beautiful, who loves you so much, you should take advantage of it." It was a year and a half ago, February 1990, when we first learned about Marla, the blonde Georgia girl who captured Donald's heart, leaving Ivana out in the cold. There was talk of reconciliation, but no action, just some haggling over money. And as the Trump empire fell further into debt, Marla fell further into love, never giving up on him for them.
And in keeping with the Trump style, Donald popped the question in a big way, a very big way. 8 carats was his way to go.
This stone would be 400,000.
Something just like this.
Yes, he came in very quietly and went directly to Mr. Winston's office upstairs in a private elevator. Came down 20 minutes later with a smile on his face.
Winston does that every now and then.
The jewelers didn't even know who it was for, not till today when Donald and Marla both called to say thank you. And then Marla called again to buy a little something for Donald. Winston's own design, this little timepiece reportedly selling for about $40,000. So, when's the date? None yet. Marla says she still needs time to work everything out. Stay tuned.
Glad he's happy. He should be happy, and if he's not, then he should get another Marla. There are plenty of them.
Now, a friend of Donald's on Wall Street called him today. He says that friend said the trading stopped for about 5 minutes when news of the engagement passed over the wires. But we called the stock exchange, and they said no such thing. He apparently got a kick out of the story, and so did we. Reporting live from Manhattan, I'm Lisa Castleman. Now let's go back to Carol and Ernie in the studio.
Okay, looks like this one's a done deal. Thank you, Lisa.
A top model who caught the nation's eye was located late today after she was reported missing. You will know who she is if you happen to see the cover of this year's Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue. Police said earlier today that they were searching for Ashley Montana and her husband. They are both from Manhattan. Montana's mother had told New York City police that the couple was last seen at a hotel in Miami, but they hadn't been seen since reportedly going sailing last week. Now, just a short time ago, though, the Miami company that rented the couple a yacht said that they had been contacted and that the couple is due back in port sometime this evening.
Tonight, you could say the C in Connecticut stands for chaos, budget chaos. The shutdown of the state spread today as more workers were laid off, non-essential services remained suspended, and many parks started closing. But some have been saved by private donations, including Sherwood Island State Park in Westport. And that's where Channel 2's John Slattery is live now with the very latest on that story. John, a little bit of good news with the bad, huh?
It sure is.
Yep.
Sherwood Island was one of those that was slated to be closed, but today, surprisingly, it stayed open and will be all weekend, along with 2 other state parks on the coastline here in Connecticut, while the governor tries again for a budget. Governor Lowell Weicker and legislative leaders today met behind closed doors and agreed to work through the 4th of July weekend in an effort to restart state government.
They will meet today, the 4th of July, and however long it takes to come up with a budget package that can be submitted to caucus.
Meanwhile, the city of Bridgeport is hit with a double whammy. Just after the city declared itself bankrupt, many state workers find themselves furloughed.
Can I say it stinks? Somebody's got to do something. I'm not a politician.
Connecticut is into its 2nd day of a partial shutdown, idling 20,000 state workers deemed non-essential to the public's health, safety, and welfare.
We're turning everybody away, sir.
All across Connecticut, the Department of Motor Vehicles, open yesterday, is closed today.
I just bought a new motorcycle I wanted to register for the holiday weekend, which I don't think is going to work too well.
With 40% of state workers told to stay home without pay, janitors in state buildings filed suit charging an illegal lockout. With the $7.8 billion budget failing to pass, 40 state agencies and departments closed down. But those remaining open include courts and corrections, summer school at state colleges, state lottery games continue, and the welfare and unemployment offices are open.
We are at this time accommodating everyone. Everyone who came in today, who was scheduled for yesterday, has been taken care of.
It's good news for the throngs of unemployed who showed up to get checks.
A lot of people want to get their money, their benefits for the week, and they depended on it.
So you're glad it's open?
Yes, very.
And a few state parks have been granted a reprieve. While campgrounds and parks were ordered closed last night at sunset, today 3 private corporations donated $43,000 to keep 3 parks open through July 7th. They are Sherwood Island at Westport, Hammonasset State Park, and Rocky Neck State Park in Niantic.
I'm really glad for all the people that had plans to come here.
So 3 beaches will stay open through the weekend. And while the state still tries to struggle for a budget, the problem is that even though the House passed a plan for a state income tax, the Senate then rejected it, even though the governor said he would sign it. As you heard the governor say, he'll be trying through the weekend to work something out. This is John Slattery reporting live from Westport, Connecticut. Ernie?
Okay, John. And there's more. As John mentioned in his report, private donations will make sure that several parks remain open. It's also private money, though, that is responsible for New York City's public swimming pools opening today. The city's fiscal crisis, of course, had threatened to keep them dry, but the city has managed to stay afloat, and so have those pools, as Channel 2's J.J. Gonzalez reports.
Central Park's Lasker Pool in Harlem was one of 32 pools scheduled to be closed this year, victims of the city's budget problems. But today all 32 were opened, albeit for an abbreviated 7 weeks, thanks to a donation by a private foundation.
We owe a great debt of gratitude to the Saul Goldman Charitable Trust Foundation, which stepped forward early in May and donated $2 million.
The mayor personally thanked the Goldman family for saving the summer pool season and added another thank you to a former New Yorker, David Sokol, who lives in Nebraska, yet gave a personal donation.
And when he found out that this pool was going to be closed, he came forth and got hold of Betsy and gave her a check for $60,000.
The thought of a pool this summer was bad news for everybody, including members of Harlem's Honey Bear swimmers, who found the water today too cold to swim in, although one lifeguard braved the frigid waters for our cameras.
If there was a close, there was no other place to go except for the Bronx. I think it's a pool out there, and nobody wanted to travel all the way out there to go to the pool.
Parks Commissioner Betsy Gottbaum was instrumental in bringing in the donations that kept the pools open, promises to work to get more money to extend the season through Labor Day. But the city is still $800,000 shy of keeping the pools opened until Labor Day. Where did it expect to get that money from?
Well, I'm just going to go. I'm going to get all the reporters I know to let me go on television and radio and every place I can in all the newspapers and just ask people to come forward. So we'll get that extra $800,000 to keep the pools open for the rest of the summer.
Even though it was a happy moment for the mayor, he still had some bitter words.
The Assembly is ready to act. The governor's on board, and the Senate is not yet persuaded of the need to do this in the fashion we suggest.
Nevertheless, the pools will remain open most of the season, thanks to those who care for the city. In Harlem, J.J. Gonzalez, Channel 2 News.
And at this hour, Mayor Dinkins is still waiting for approval from Albany on that income tax package that you just heard him talk about. But legislative leaders today did finally agree with Governor Cuomo to settle the state budget once and for all by restoring almost $700 million Cuomo had vetoed. Now, that could mean some extra aid for the city, whose fiscal cloud contains a silver lining for car owners. Now, it means that they didn't have to get up early this morning to move their vehicles. And that's because alternate side of the street parking regulations are now suspended on Wednesdays and Saturdays. The reason? Sanitation department budget cuts mean fewer street cleaners are available to get to those streets. And some people who weren't aware of the change moved their cars this morning, double parked them, and wound up getting the ticket that they had hoped to dodge. Too bad.
Well, needless to say, Ernie, a lot of cars were hitting the road early this afternoon as people make an early getaway for the 4th of July weekend. But this is turning out to be one holiday that hasn't been so hot for fireworks dealers who are facing a sales slump. As Channel 2's Reggie Harris reports, fewer people apparently want a bang for their buck.
On Chinatown's crowded sidewalks, amid the fresh fish and tourist trinkets, there's another product always in demand in early July.
Fireworks, best one. Fireworks, check it out. Fireworks.
Along Canal Street, virtually every corner has hawkers, young men who call out to passers-by or flash signs to passing cars. And along the sidewalks, stalkers who travel block to block with plastic bags filled with fireworks. They move on when police come near.
There's a lot of accidents with fireworks, and I guess that's why the city, thinks of, fireworks as being dangerous and to take them off the streets. So that's why I'm here.
The 5th precinct, which covers Chinatown, has more officers on its fireworks task force this year. And sellers say the street heat is helping to keep sales lower than usual.
We're over here trying to make a living, It's better than robbing and stealing, that's what I say. I'll sell you a little fireworks rather than go and rob a chain or rob a purse.
The sellers say this year prices are higher. In years past, a dozen rockets like this might have sold for $6 or $7. This year, they're $10, perhaps more. And the sellers say there seems to be more competition this year, more hawkers for fewer customers.
This day last year, I was making triple of what I made by now.
Why is that?
Because there's so much sellers out there.
Fireworks sellers suspect the recession has also hurt them. Unemployed people just don't splurge on fireworks. But those who are still working seem to think the Chinatown deals are all right.
I got all this stuff for $16. Not bad. 8-ounce rockets, brick of firecrackers, and gross of bottle rockets.
This dance between police and the fireworks folks seems like the ebb and flow of the tides.
You'll see, we just took this. They'll be back out in a few minutes. The same one.
With a new bag.
Don't fill them up too big, because we got to...
Police say they've already confiscated nearly twice as many cases as last year, and arrests are up. But there seems to be no way to stop the selling and buying of fireworks, perhaps because bombs bursting in air are an expected part of the Independence Day celebration. In Manhattan, Reggie Harris, Channel 2 News.
Well, the loud bangs and pops of fireworks filled the air in the Bronx today, but the focus wasn't patriotism, it was safety. The New York City Police Department bomb squad demonstrated the danger of fireworks blowing up hundreds of confiscated cases. Now, officials caution that fireworks may be fun to watch, but they can be deadly in the wrong hands. Now, of course, the safest and the best fireworks displays are the ones put on by the experts, and that's just what you're going to be seeing tomorrow night, starting at 9:20. It is the annual Macy's fireworks show over the East River in Manhattan called Cheer for America. The best viewing spots will be along the FDR Drive. Southbound lanes will be shut down for pedestrians from 14th Street to 42nd Street. And you can also see the fireworks from Brooklyn and Queens in the stretch between the Williamsburg and the 59th Street bridges, so long as you have a clear view of the river. That's necessary. Macy says that this year's display, by the way, will be a salute to the men and women of our armed services.
Oh, all right, that's a good tribute. Frank Field will be along just a little later to tell you if it'll rain on your holiday. And as we continue today, we will be updating the crisis in Yugoslavia, hurtling towards civil war as the bloodshed there worsens.
And later, it is Terminator 2. Dennis reviews the special effects-packed sequel starring Arnold Schwarzenegger. And this is also coming up today.
Want to drive a new car for less than $300 a year? That's what the ad said. I'm Roseanne Coletti. I'll tell you what it meant in tonight's Troubleshooter Report coming up.
If it isn't civil war, then it's the closest thing to it. At this hour, a line of very imposing tanks is rumbling through Yugoslavia. They are the tanks of the Federal Army, at least 180 of them headed now to the breakaway Republic of Croatia. Federal troops fought for the 7th straight day with the soldiers who represent the Republic of Slovenia. One Slovenian soldier said today that federal troops don't realize how they're hurting the country.
Because these federal troops are fighting against us, but they don't realize it. They are fighting actually against themselves.
There is growing concern that the military might take over in Yugoslavia. Secretary of State James Baker said today that the military is apparently rejecting civilian control. The U.S. and European community are now considering imposing an arms embargo. President Bush said today that the crisis is a very disturbing situation.
And of course, it is especially disturbing for Yugoslavians here in our area who worry today about loved ones back home. Channel 2's Chris Borgan reports on the view from afar and the feeling of helplessness.
Mr. and Mrs. Prelon have been American citizens for a long time now, but Slovenia is their ancestral home, and that is where family and friends brave each day of rising violence.
Because the way I look at the map, every little town is being attacked.
From Yugoslavia, where the Federal Army intervened to halt Slovenia's move to independence, is not good. Widespread fighting. 53 have been reported killed and at least 142 wounded, with serious fighting reported raging in the Republic latest.
I mean, it's so mixed up, everything. Not only the capital city and the air, also the small people were attacked.
As new reports come in telling of Yugoslavian army tanks massing on